Hi, my name is Ivan Garland. Beside me is my son James. We're here today at Garland Sugar Shack. We're going to do some demonstration on how maple syrup is made. Maple syrup has been a childhood dream and adventure for me especially. I started making maple syrup. I was 13 years old and it grew part of the family farm. Behind us here we have the first building that I started making maple syrup in. This was one of my grandfather's first buildings on the farm. A century farm now, I may add. I'm third generation. Hopefully you'll enjoy seeing how maple syrup is made today.
So the first step to making maple syrup is tapping the trees. This is their traditional way to do it with a spile and a bucket. In 2002, we got around to having 850 buckets, so that was getting a little time-consuming going to collect the buckets once or twice a day, and so we decided to modernize our operation and install pipeline and vacuum systems. These blue spiles here, they're actually called tree saver spiles. The hole is much smaller than a traditional spile. The tree ends up healing that same year instead of scarring over the years and causing damage to the trees. So this is a much friendlier way to tap the trees. So what you're looking at right now is a pipeline system. We currently have 4,200 taps. We're going to be expanding to 10,000 taps. All these pipes lead up to a main line, which brings the sap down to a storage tank. So the main lines I was showing you guys earlier all end up in this storage container here. We have a storage tank in here, our vacuum system, and an extractor. So the vacuum comes in through this PVC pipe here down to the extractor. This basically just keeps all the vacuum contained and pulls it through the main lines that we were showing you guys earlier. So the sap comes in through the main lines, fills these guys up, and then dumps it. At this point, the sugar content is about 1 to 3.5%. It still has to be refined to be turned into maple syrup.
So now that we have the sap home and unloaded, it goes back downstairs. The sap coming from the bush is approximately 2 to 3% sugar. And what we like to do with the reverse osmosis is bring the sugar level up to 8%. So that takes a considerable amount of water out of the system, so there's a lot less time to boil. Just a quick explanation of how the reverse osmosis works. There's a feed pump that pushes the sap through 2 sets of filters to have it as clean as possible when it goes into what we call the membrane. The sap is pushed through the membrane at over 400 pounds per square inch, so it's very high pressure. On average, it takes about 40 liters of sap to make 1 liter of maple syrup. And this is where the reverse osmosis comes in, very handy. Last year's numbers, we've collected approximately 160,000 liters of sap to make 4,000 liters of syrup. So there's a lot of evaporation there was saved by cutting out a good part of the evaporation process. We keep the pure water that we remove from the sap and we use it to clean, because that water is, how can I say it, perfect water, clear, clean, there are no minerals, there's nothing in it, it's just a liquid. Water needs minerals, so it's like a magnet. When we use it to clean, it's so much better than tap water. It cleans all our facility, all our equipment, a lot better than regular water. Now we just lit the fire, boiled down today's sap into some sweet maple syrup. This stove here is just about the most energy efficient on the market. It's, as you see, it's wood burning, but the way it's made, it's a gasification system. Airtight, we're taking the gases out of the wood and we're burning them on top. That's why you see in the flame, it's like a rolling effect on the top. So instead of the conventional evaporator, you used to have to put some wood in every 10 minutes to be very efficient. In this case, as the gases burn, we watch our chimney temperature. And as our chimney temperature starts to go down, there's still a lot of wood in there. We just increase the speed of the fan a little bit to get more gases out of the wood to keep that intense heat for almost an hour. The sap, as it comes from the tank upstairs, is first circulated into the hood where it's preheated before it hits the pans so that we're not putting cold sap in the pans to cool things down.
So as we're boiling along, the sap moves down these 3 pans, and as it moves down, more and more of the water gets taken out of the sap. And as it goes more towards the front, it turns more into syrup. As the density gets higher, the automatic draw-off is set at a certain level, and it pulls a batch of syrup out when it's ready. And then we adjust the sugar levels in the syrup with hydrometer readings.
So I don't know if you can see, but the red line is right level with the top of the syrup, or just come out a little bit. So our setting was right and the syrup is coming off at the right density.
So now that the maple syrup is ready, it's about to be filtered. The syrup passes through this press filter here. It takes out any kind of natural sands in the maple syrup and then passes it along to the bottling unit. There's a little bit of natural sands that gets carried out through the sap throughout the whole process. The sand is too fine for all the other filters to catch. So that's why we pass it through this set of filters. And you'll see why. There's quite a bit of sand that, that pushes through. So those are the natural sands that get caught in the filters in this process. If we wouldn't filter our maple syrup, that would end up at the bottom of your bottles, of the jugs. So it's a very important part of making maple syrup.
So this concludes our day at Garland Sugar Shack. I hope you enjoyed watching. Here in my hands we hold the final product, some good sweet maple syrup, and we also do a multitude of other products like maple butter, sugar, candies. If you're ever in the area, stop by and see us.
You can also check us out on garlandsugarshack.ca and like our page on Facebook. You can follow us, keep up to date with everything we're up to. Thanks for watching.